The top four get together in men's college water polo. We look ahead to the Rocktober 12 and Under Classic this weekend in Arizona, and we catch up with a legend. New Stanford Associate Head Coach Brenda Villa joins us, all coming up next on The Counterattack. Hey everyone, Greg Mescall here. Thanks for joining us on The Counterattack right here on Overnght and USA Water Polo. Appreciate you stopping by. A lot to get to as we do every week. We start first with men's college water polo. The Big Four, as they're known in the college game: Stanford, Cal, USC, UCLA. Depending on the year, the rankings change, but MPSF play has arrived, the conference schedule, and those four all getting together in the Bay Area in different matchups. So you had Cal hosting both UCLA and USC, Stanford doing likewise. The matches were covered on Overnght. Let's take a look at some highlights from Sunday's games. Those were two close contests. And then we'll take you back to the East Coast, where Princeton and Harvard got together, and it was a huge day for the Crimson.
Up to Ben Four. In dart with a shot, and that was right into the waiting arms of Nate Tauscher. Carcelade is another one of their top players. Up top, and now from the side, down to 5. Four with a shot. This game is tied. Brinkema. Over the near side, shot, save made. Wes Temkin. And now Stanford trying to tie things up at the end of this second period, and they do. So long way to go, but they have another. DeMartire, up it comes. Four, gets a look off. This time the field block, second chance, save made. Nate Tauscher. And Carcelade with a finish.
Quick if they're going to get the ball back.
Here's the shot, almost over the line, but saved by Tauscher. And now the empty net. There is the finisher. Ryder Dodd.
At the top, shot block, Pina. And it's perfect on the right side. They've got a drop for him. Shot is blocked. Trying to get Chase Wilson open. Nothing, but the cross pass. Passing on the outside, finds the post, and it's open, and there is Jack Martin. Clock. Shot is good. So the quick passing to shoot if he wants, does it. Pass across, block, Pina. Instead it's Ponferrada. That Boostfield knows he has an opportunity, and he does take it, and he scores. And they will get one more goal.
Second year, fired shot, Connor Kim, back-to-back, different spot in the pool, and it's 3-1 Harvard. Touch for Lucas Peabody, now Strausser, back to Kim, and straight on Peabody, shoots and scores! Peabody working with Strausser, the big lefty, scores, cross cage. They had an 8-assist game against LIU just last weekend, and the shot going low here, sneaks in. But 4 ejections drawn, and the 5-meter is stopped by Furtak, denying payouts. 10 shoot, Burkhart surveying, back to Vilas. He's probably going to have to shoot. He does, and he scores!
And now we go into the college scoreboard. We mentioned that these teams met on Saturday as well. Not as close. UCLA all over Cal, 14-7, really ran away with that one. And then USC defeating Stanford 14-10. How about down south? A real barn burner. Pepperdine, Long Beach State, the Waves able to hang on here in overtime, 17-16. And then an upset, UC Santa Barbara getting past San Jose State, 13-12. So exciting results here as we are just getting started in the month of October here in the world of men's college water polo. Now let's switch gears to age group water polo. The Rocktober 12 and Under Classic. This event brings clubs from all around the country to Mesa, Arizona. It continues to grow year over year. It has really gotten probably as big as it can get for where it's currently being hosted with the amazing facilities at the Aquino Aquatic Center in Mesa, Arizona. It's a great sign of excitement for the 12 and under age group, also growth in Arizona. So best of luck to all the teams headed to Mesa this weekend. Again, you can follow the USA Water Polo social channels for live coverage throughout. We'll have highlights next week here on the show. In the meantime, we wanted to talk about the growth of the game in Arizona and hosting the event, so we caught up with a couple of members of the Mesa Water Polo Club coaching staff. Hey everyone, earlier in the week we had a chance to talk with a couple of coaches from the Mesa Water Polo Club. Rocktober is coming up. Want to welcome in Autumn and Victoria. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Of course.
Huge event this weekend, Rocktober 12 and Under Classic. Event just seems to get larger and larger every year. Mesa has become the destination for this thing. Tell us from your perspective, Victoria. We can start with you, and then over to Autumn as well, or whoever wants to go first. But what's it like to be the host of this premier 12U event?
Honestly, it's just such an awesome opportunity because you'd think Arizona would be the perfect place to have water polo. I mean, it gets up to 120 degrees. It's hot. It's like perfect weather 9 months out of the year, but we don't have much water polo happening. And so being able to host this big national 12 and under tournament where it just becomes a showcase for all of these young kids to show off like what I've learned in my 12U career in water polo and being able to just, take that big step and have their own little JOs just for them, basically. And it's just awesome to watch.
Yeah, Autumn, what do you think?
I unfortunately haven't been able to go to a Rocktober yet. This will be my first. But just listening to our kids talk about Rocktober, this is the thing that they look forward to every single year. Like, this is all they want to do. And once the kids age out and can't play in Rocktober anymore, they're so bummed and they still want to come and help at Rocktober because they still want to be there. So it's definitely a super, super fun event. And it's an honor to be able to be a host and have been able to host it for so long.
And then Autumn, as a leader with this club, what sort of pride does the group feel to be the host of such an important event?
Yeah, I definitely think that our club has really taken it under our belt. And whenever we go and we recruit, that's the first thing that our kids say is they were like, oh my gosh, you can come and be a part of the team and play in Rocktober if you're the right age and you get to experience this with us. So it's definitely something that we are very proud to be able to continue to host. And you can tell from just our parents' willingness to be involved and help. We have filled all of our volunteer spots and they're so willing to be there all weekend with us, and be a part of the event too.
Victoria, for people that maybe haven't experienced it before, I've always loved the photos that come out of Rocktober where you see referees dressed up in costumes and there's a party on Friday night. How do you describe, obviously there's the water polo part, but how do you describe the fun part of it that really keeps kids wanting to come back year over year?
It's just such a party. I mean, it's called Rocktober. Friday night, we have our big pizza party. And on top of that, we're so close to Halloween. And so the refs get ready to dress up. And it's something that the refs themselves are so excited to show up that that energy and what they bring just lights up the whole pool. And it's so fun Friday night at the end of the night when everyone gets their guitars out and we have a pizza party and we're playing all in the splash pad. It's just awesome.
You both hit on the idea that Mesa, Arizona in general seems like the perfect spot. Where else would you want to be on a hot day but in the pool? Autumn, what are some of the things that you and other clubs in the area are trying to do to get more folks involved? And when you're making that pitch for water polo, what are you telling people? Why try water polo in Arizona?
I think the biggest thing that we're trying to make happen is more local play. It's hard when all of us clubs have smaller numbers. So we try our best to put all the kids together on one team and make local play happen like that. So the biggest thing is getting kids pumped to be able to participate in fun events like this, participate in tournaments that are happening outside of our state, and just to learn how to play a sport that's hard and learn dedication and determination, and a lot of character development can happen in water polo, and it's so cool and so important. So it's a lot of the buy-in from the kids, but also the parents, because it's not an easy sport to be involved in and it's just not for everybody. But when you do get involved, it makes a big difference in your life.
Through the magic of editing, we're back, and we've added 2 new guests. We have to get introductions. Autumn and Victoria, tell us who's joining us here.
This is Blair.
This is Lincoln.
All right. Blair and Lincoln, good to have you both here. We'll get your thoughts on Rocktober momentarily. We took a quick break. These folks wanted to join us. We're glad to have them. We were talking about how your water polo backgrounds as kids, when you were younger, kind of shaped maybe the message now that you're giving to parents as parents yourself. So I'll come back to you, Victoria. Like, what do you say to a mom or dad where you're like, I played this as a kid, I'm a mom now. What's your pitch to a parent?
My pitch is that it is such a fun sport because of all of the opportunities that come with it. I grew up, my dad coached at the University of Utah's, like their women's club. And so we were just hopping in a van and taking road trips all around, up and down California and New Mexico and Arizona, just watching games and playing and going to the beach. And it's more than just water polo. It's the community that comes with water polo. And I think Rocktober is such a great introduction because it's for the little ones. And that's the age when you start to decide, like, what sport do I want my kid to try? And we just want it to be the most warming experience for them because it's such a niche sport that you don't really see every day.
I mean, if this picture right here does not spell family environment and water polo, what will? Autumn, what's the dream going forward? If you could look ahead, 4 or 5 years, where do you want Mesa Water Polo to be? Where do you want water polo in Arizona to be?
Honestly, the dream for me is that all 3 of the clubs that are in Arizona have full rosters and we can, go and be a part of tournaments like we are without having to cross roster with other teams and hopefully have more, solid local play. I think that that's the biggest dream because as an athlete, like your desire to compete is important and that's what keeps you running, right? It's the game. Like an NFL player doesn't look forward to just going to practice and working hard. Like you want to see the hard work be shown somewhere. So that's definitely the biggest goal is getting recognition and getting our name out there and getting more athletes to come and join our program.
And then lastly, what's the early scouting report on these 2? Do we have a future, is this like a 2-meter defender, a goalie? What are we thinking?
Dude, set D, set center.
Yep.
8-month-old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, yep.
Definitely.
You guys going to draw some exclusions, I think. Yeah.
I don't know about Blair.
No, she's pretty fast.
Yeah, she could be an attacker.
Good attacker.
Yeah. They're
right,
definitely going to be in the pool sooner than later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, love it. Hey, Victoria, Autumn, family, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck this weekend at Rocktober and wishing you all the best with Mesa going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Once again, good luck to everyone taking part in Rocktober. We stick with age group water polo and the Junior Olympics. The games are complete. We're still telling the stories. You'll see them popping up on our USA Water Polo digital channels. One of the first ones, the Hilo Hamas, a great story of a team coming together, aspiring to take part in JOs, realizing it'd be an expensive journey for a new club. They start a fundraiser and the community responded in a great way. Take a look.
Receiving $5,000 in 24 hours, we were definitely all in tears. I have no words. It was pretty crazy. I did call some coaches I knew on Oahu and they did let me know that it's possible, but it is expensive. It does take some hard work. So I presented it to the parents and the athletes and they said, let's go for it. We have an amazing support system from the families of these athletes who also they just want to create more opportunities for these girls.
We did a lot of fundraising. We did a lot of work as a team, a lot of practices, a lot of effort put into it. Communication, trying to organize it. Our coach did a lot of work. We're all very grateful for her for putting in as much as she did. So I think it was hard, but all of it along the way, we all knew that this is where we would end up and that this would be worth it in and of itself.
It was very tough, but our island is very tight-knit together, and so our families are as well, and it took a lot of commitment and effort from our parents, our aunties, our uncles, our siblings even, and we all came together and we worked it out and we raised more than we needed. I'm proud of us because every game that we play, we try to do our hardest. It's important to put in the effort. And so it's amazing that we can come and represent our island.
So again, keep an eye out on the USA Water Polo Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube for more stories like this coming from the world's largest water polo tournament. Now, it was 25 years ago this fall that women's water polo made its debut at the Olympic Games in Sydney, Australia. There was talk last summer about the big crowds in Paris. The biggest crowd for women's water polo was at that Olympic Games final in Sydney. I think it was north of 17,000 fans. The gold medal match, Team USA and Australia. It was a heartbreaker for Team USA. They ended up losing at the very last second, but it set the tone for what has been an era of dominance for Team USA. The very next year, women's water polo would start at the NCAA rank. So who better to talk about this stroll down memory lane and what Sydney meant and what it launched for women's water polo, and one of the rising stars on that 2000 team, Hall of Famer, four-time Olympic medalist, Olympic champion Brenda Villa. She joined us for one of our big conversations on the counterattack. She also recently returned to her alma mater as the new associate head coach for the Stanford women's water polo team, joining legendary coaches JT, John Tanner, and Susan Ortwine. So we talked a little Stanford, a little Sydney, and a great conversation with one of the great ambassadors for the sport of water polo. And now we're joined with, I'll admit, one of my favorite people in water polo, the Hall of Famer, the Olympic champ, Brenda Villa, now of the Stanford Cardinal. B, how are you?
I'm great. You know, new adventures gets your mind working.
Yeah, you just coming on board with your alma mater, Stanford, to join the staff there with JT and Susan. I know you have a lot of love for Stanford, but you were in a great place too with Olu. How tough was that transition for you?
I would say really hard because you make connections, right? One of the great things about our sport is it's still small enough where you know a lot of people. So just being able to build a great community at Olu, I think that's what was the hardest piece. But knowing that if I wanted to continue to get better at my trade, that to pass up an opportunity like learning from two of the best college coaches out there was hard to do. So I didn't.
Yeah, that's a hard job to pass up on. You join a program that, as you well know, you've been involved kind of on the other side as a broadcaster the last few years. This is one of the destinations for women's water polo. When you think back to when you signed on to play at Stanford to where it is now, how has it grown from it being one of the spots people want to be at for water polo and academics?
Yeah, I think that back in my day, it wasn't the destination quite yet. I think there were some other powerhouses, or I think it was also the path to Stanford wasn't as clear. If you see the trajectory of just college recruiting, right? There's more junior days now, and there's different things that colleges have put in place to make sure that they find the athletes that better fit their schools. So I feel like Stanford has done a great job in doing that. I think when JT and Susan came on, it took them a little bit to kind of figure out what that path was, but it's great to sit on this side of it now, right? And benefit from the great foundational work they've done in lining up what the recruiting process is here.
You've been on teams as a player where it's running well and maybe some new players come on board, but it's like we have the same mission. And so I wonder now as a coach, like this thing's running on all cylinders. How do you try to add to it while also, keeping in line with what they've been working on for a long time now?
Yeah, I catch myself right now processing a lot. And if you know me, I'm a very vocal person and share my thoughts without reserve. But in the moment right now, I'm taking a step back in the sense where I want whatever I contribute, I want it to be under whatever their new system is, right? Like they've evolved from the time that I was here. There's some foundational stuff that is the same. It's bigger than water polo. It's bigger than Stanford. Like, how are we, making a positive impact in this world? But yeah, so for now, I'm just taking a step back, but I'm, each day I'm on the pool deck, it's just like getting back on a bicycle, and it's been really fun and exhilarating to get back into the groove with the Stanford way of playing.
It's interesting. I thought of you just a couple of days ago. I was talking to the Notre Dame women's volleyball coach, Shalima Rockwell. She was a great player, became an analyst, was one of the top analysts on TV, and then took on a head coaching job with Notre Dame. And that transition from watching all the teams to now focusing on your team. I'm curious, you've had the chance to look at all the teams. What's it been like now to really zero in on Stanford and kind of your hopes and dreams for one team as opposed to being an observer of the whole game?
Yeah, it's fun, right? Like you think about the pieces and the puzzle that you're trying to create, and noticing players more, because it's like a singular focus, right? So a few players that have been on my radar through watching games, but now I see them more often. I'm like, wow, they're really talented. And then now with like Jewel and Ryan gone and just a different makeup of teams, now it's like, oh, that athlete who's spectacular, maybe you'll get a couple more minutes and you'll see them shine. So it is nice to get to know one group more and see them in different environments where we are putting them under pressure to see if they could perform. So it's been fun to be able to get to know some players at a deeper level.
Women's season will be here before we know it. Of course, some off-season competitions coming up. Last question for you about Stanford. I always think about your journey to Stanford, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were the first person from your high school to go to Stanford. Is that true?
Yes, I believe that's true. I mean, that's what I was told, so we'll go with that. Yes.
We're going to go with that. Obviously there's no shortage of interests from water polo athletes to come to Stanford, but recruiting is certainly part of your job. How much do you think about finding the next you, or someone that Stanford was not in their stratosphere because they just didn't think it was possible or didn't know about it, or maybe, I think, right, you were the first in your family to go to college, like those sorts of people overcoming those things, even though a lot of time has passed. Like, do you think about the next Brenda?
I do. I always do, right? If you think about the work I do outside of water polo, in the sense we're like trying to make water polo and aquatics more accessible to all. I've had great conversations with JT and Susan just about what they look for, what the fit is, right? And we all have different, we see different talent, we have different lenses into what a talented player could be. So I'm looking forward to be able to bring that lens and hopefully find a Brenda, right? Or somebody that has, as I've been told, good water polo IQ, maybe doesn't fit the mold, but has just, this spark in them that just can't be taught. So yes, I hope to find that out there.
Now, if talking about high school didn't make you feel old, we'll talk about the 2000 Olympics 25 years ago this fall. When Sydney comes to mind all these years later, we know the results, of course, but what pops into your head right away when you think Sydney 2000?
Oh man, I think about that Australian cheer. Aussie, 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 oi, oi. No, but in all seriousness, I think about being in high school and not being able to dream about, like at the beginning of my high school career, not being able to have the Olympics as a goal or as a dream, right? And then till my senior year when it was put into the program, and just how now girls are growing up being able to dream about that, even at 10 and unders, right? So just the landscape in that is different, and I think it's awesome. And then when I think about Sydney, I think about that's where the dream of becoming like an Olympic champion was born. Like, we didn't win that time, and we all thought we would be successful, but I don't think anybody else in the world thought we would be as successful as we were in Sydney. I think about being the first team ever on a podium for Team USA. And of course, my teammates. I think about all the pictures and the cheers and the highs and the lows. But yeah, a lot of great memories.
There was a lot of talk at the Paris final last summer about the size of the crowd, and initially some reports that was the biggest crowd ever. And I know people like you were saying, well, hang on, I played in front of the biggest crowd ever. What do you remember about, was it 17 or 18,000? It was a massive crowd in Sydney. What do you remember about that scene and that vibe?
I definitely remember taking a moment in lineups and just like looking up in the stands and appreciating it. And of course, I always would try to find my parents. And in most pool venues, you could find them because it's not that big, right? But there was no way that I could find them. So just taking that in, and also just, we always talked about listening for the silence. And of course, when you're playing the home team, in the first Olympic final ever for women's water polo, um, we needed to listen for the silence because there was probably only 200 Americans there cheering, or people cheering for the US and the rest were cheering for Australia. But it was incredible. I mean, especially the way the pool was set up, right? It was only really on one side that you had all the cheering section. So there was definitely nosebleeds, seating. So it was pretty incredible. It was loud. It was anything that any young 10 and under could dream of.
Anyone that follows the team now and has seen all of their success is like, of course they won silver. They're always on the podium. They medal all the time. Of course, Paris was a heartbreak. But can you give some context to the expectations? This was not a top-ranked team going into Sydney. You had to battle through the qualifier. The medal was not a given.
No, and I think back to a team meeting that we had with Guy Baker. I think when he first came on to coach the team, and I think he had taken stats about our record versus like Holland, Australia, who else were the top teams back then? Maybe like Italy, Hungary, and like our record against Holland was like 1 in, I don't know, 15 in the last, 3 or 4 years prior to him taking the job. So he was like, of course, you don't know what that feels like yet, right? So just the preparation that went in before Sydney to put us in the position to know that we could be successful in that, and it wasn't something that was so out of this world for it to happen. And then if you think about it, we opened up with Holland, we beat Holland, and then we beat them in the semi. And they, I would say, were the team of the 90s, right? So they incredibly talented. So to be able to do that and do it twice at the Olympics, I think gave us the confidence that we needed. But even if you think back to that, then we tied Canada when like the last 10 seconds of a game, we were down. So we go from beating one of the top teams to then almost losing to Canada. And that tie gave us the point needed to be fourth, I believe, or something. So that however the bracket played out. So it was such a huge point for us to advance. But yeah, we had just started to really beat these teams. And I go back to like the qualifier, like beating Hungary in Europe to qualify. Like these were big milestones for the team. So I think for us, we were coming off that positive wave of like, we can do this, we can battle with everyone. So we believed because we had been able to kind of turn that wave in our favor.
Yeah, just an amazing journey there. And in the grand scheme of women's water polo, there were positive things happening, right? NCAA would come online as a season later, right, in 2001. But if you think about those 2000 games, how much did that kind of set the table for all the amazing things that happened, especially with the U.S. women over the last 20 plus years?
I think it was like a ripple effect, right? I think about playing in coming back from Sydney and then playing in my first collegiate season after an Olympics. It was the first time ever NCAA sponsored it. And USC had Aniko Pele, Sophia Canuck, like some of the best players in the world coming to the US to play. So you think about that just encouraged more players to come, right? So now we were a legitimate player in the world where we're producing our athletes from the NCAA system. So I think it was just like, here are the Olympics, here are the Americans that, have talent. We're okay with our talent going over there to make their leagues better. They probably don't think of it that way, but I think for us, we did benefit. So I think all of that just started coming along, like more high school programs, more club teams, more younger girls playing, and it just has continued.
It would take another 12 years before that ultimate prize came for you in London. You're shaking your head now, right? Who knew? When you're leading into those games and when the gold finally happens, right? And you have all these other great experiences in World Championships. When you finally get that ultimate prize, I kind of remember you saying after that, like, I haven't even cried yet because there's so many other thoughts to it. When you think back on that now and like where you started in Sydney and then finally getting there at the end, what comes to mind when you think about that kind of span of time?
I really think about the opportunities we had to like fortify our our bond and connections with the team, like in and out of the water. If you think about Sydney, we really had 2 years to train and get on the same page, and we were able to do what we did. And then after that, you had more opportunities, but just I don't know. I don't think that I always believed that you needed to like love and respect your teammates to a certain degree, right? To like make it happen. And as I got older, it's something where you do I don't know. I feel like my mindset was I don't have to like you, I just respect you in the water, and if you're open, I'm going to give you the ball, right? And you just play because we have a common goal. But as I got older, just knowing that that person next to me has seen me at my lowest and could help me get out of it, and just that support, I think all those moments helped us get over the hump in 2012. And I think it just put us in a place where whatever that outcome was, I was going to be happy because I had left it all on the table, and so did all my teammates. And I did everything in my power to make it the best that we could make it, whatever the result was. But it worked out for us. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to kind of hear your perspective on growth from your early days to kind of being in like a veteran spot. Last thing on Sydney, I'll kind of tie it back to Stanford. One of the people you play with, Heather Petrie, you're now wearing opposing colors once again. You're with Stanford, she's with Cal. What's that first meeting between Cal and Stanford going to be like next season when you're on opposing benches?
I mean, there will be a hug before the game and after the game, if you know Petey. But the interesting thing is like I think Adam has said this, like, you guys are such great friends. Like, who would have known? And I'm like, when you spend all those years together fighting for one thing, like, of course there is this, like, no one else in the world knows what we went through, right? Like, we were there that whole journey together. So of course she was one of the first people that I talked about this opportunity, and she was like, you have to do this. So like till the end, like, to have the sisterhood of support will always be there. Of course we're both competitive, and of course we have like our biases of like our alma maters, and we'll jockey back and forth. But I wish her the best, she wishes me the best, and it's all about how do we make this sport continue to grow and be better for everyone else.
Yeah, that's spot on. When you said sisterhood, I thought of bond, like the definition of bond. When you think about everything you two have worked for and worked on and accomplished together, it's always going to be like Brenda and Petey. I think people just think of you guys together, and that's a great thing. So
yeah,
B, thank you for the time. Congrats again on the new role at Stanford. We will miss you on the NCAA Championship broadcast, but we're looking forward to seeing you by the pool here real soon.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Brenda for stopping by. We know it's a busy time, even in the off-season for women's college water polo. The regular year will be here before we know it. Speaking of Stanford, perfect segue into our Malmston Goal of the Week. Let's go back to some recent Cardinal water polo. Alex Georgi, or as I call him, Curious Georgi. Look at the control here from the big man in front of the cage. That is some quick work down low and able to put it home. And that's a look at our Malmston Goal of the Week. Again, you can share your suggestions for our Goal of the Week, our goalie save of the week. Perhaps maybe a field block. We could put that in there if it's really good. Send your clips in. You can share a DM at USAWP. Also send along to the Overnght social channels as well. Let's look ahead now, calendar-wise. What's coming up? Well, you know, Rocktober is this weekend. We told you all about it in Mesa. Next month, it's the Delfina USA Champions Cup, headed back to Bloomington, Indiana, on campus there at IU, home of the Hoosiers. Looking forward to that one. Don't forget both of those events. They live stream on Goals. And then into December, we've got the Men's College Championships with the Division III and the NCAA Championships. That NCAA Men's Championship Sunday, December 7th, live on ESPNU from Stanford, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Well, that'll do it for this week's show. Thanks so much for joining us. And don't forget, when you're on the counterattack, look weak side.